Minasan konnichiwa, this is Tina and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be reviewing all 3 varieties of the Canmake Mermaid Skin Gel UV. If this sounds like your thing, then please go ahead and channel 登録しちゃってください。しちゃいなよ。So after Canmake released their 3rd variety of their SPF, I thought it was finally time to create a dedicated video on this iconic Japanese sunscreen. If you have been here a little while, I am sure you have already heard me mention this one in particular. It has been one of my favorite Japanese SPFs for a number of years now, and it is the one that I immediately recommend whenever people ask for a alcohol and fragrance-free Japanese sunscreen. Although, did you know that there are actually 3 different types of the Canmake Mermaid Skin Gel UV? Don't worry if you didn't, because that is exactly what this video is for. The 3 different types include the original 01 Clear, which was released in 2015, and then the 02 White, which was released a number of years later in 2019, and then lastly the C01 Cica Mint that was released in 2022 earlier this year. Can we just talk about the naming convention? C01 Cica Mint? Really? Why not just 03 Green and keep it simple? Before we get into the differences and the individual reviews, I actually do want to talk about the similarities or commonalities between these 3 so I don't have to keep repeating myself. So the things that are the same between all 3 of them is that they are all SPF 50+ with PA4+ protection, and they are both labeled to be for the face and body. They are all hybrid sunscreens including chemical and physical filters. In fact, they actually use the same 5 filters in all 3 of these, the 5 filters that you see on the screen here, although I do believe that they use different amounts of the filters looking at the inky list. They are all the same in price and size. They are 40 grams with the recommended retail price of 770 Japanese yen, which is very, very affordable. If you are buying it online, obviously the price does vary a bit, but on most sites it sells between 10 to 15 US dollars, which again is still very affordable. They also all claim to be a all-in-one product. So looking at the outside packaging, they say that you can apply this and just this right after cleansing. So it's supposed to act like skincare, SPF protection, and also a makeup base all in one. Although of course they do say you can also use it as a regular sunscreen, so at the last step of your skincare routine just before makeup. And no, they are not waterproof nor claim to be waterproof, so they are more a everyday wear sunscreen. So first things first, let's talk about the original 01 Clear version. It is safe to say that this original one is easily in my top 5 favorite Japanese sunscreens of all time. It is a beautifully light gel texture that is hydrating yet not overly dewy and doesn't leave any stickiness on the skin either. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it is literally like you can see the beads of hydration when you are applying it. Beads of hydration. Does that even make sense? I don't know if it does. So it is very easy to blend out and doesn't leave a white cast, although it does leave a very subtle kind of sheen or almost shimmer that makes your skin look really healthy and juicy. Over the course of the day, I would say it does dry down to more of a natural kind of semi-matte finish, so it is something that most skin types will be able to enjoy. And as I mentioned earlier, it is one of the fewer Japanese sunscreens that do not contain alcohol or fragrance, making it great for sensitive skin as well. That's pretty much all I have to say about this one. It is brilliant. It does not peel. It works beautifully underneath makeup. It works fine with reapplication. Like, I literally have no complaints. Some people say it's too small, which yeah, it is 40 grams. It is pretty small for a sunscreen, although I personally am someone who prefers smaller sizes because I feel like I can confidently use it up before it expires, but it is still very, very affordable. So I just recommend grabbing a couple and stocking up whenever you find a good deal, and I personally prefer the size for traveling too. Next we have the 02 White. As the name may suggest, this one does have a whitening effect, which I really wish Japan would stop using this term, but essentially it is meant to brighten or tone up your skin complexion. If you do know a little bit about Asian beauty, then you probably are already familiar with this term, although unfortunately it is not something that will work on all skin tones. The ingredients are essentially the same as the original clear version, although the physical filters titanium dioxide and zinc oxide are seen higher up on the inky list, which creates that tone up or kind of a white cast effect. The texture itself also has a bit more body to it, so I do think it's a little bit harder to blend compared to the original. It is still hydrating, although due to the higher amount of those physical UV filters, I do feel like it is a little bit more drying or a little bit more kind of tighter feeling on my dry skin. And like the clear, this one is also alcohol and fragrance free, which is great. But to be honest, I don't think this is it. I did have on some occasions it looked really good, so when it applies well, it looks flawless, it brightens my skin tone, it adds a little bit of a shimmer, it honestly looks like porcelain doll kind of effect, but it was only when I wore something really moisturizing underneath, so I don't even want to think about putting this on my dry skin on a freshly cleansed face. And due to that tone up factor, it peels, it gets in the hairline, it gets in my brows. It was rare that it would apply very evenly without bunching up or being really, really hard to blend. And reapplication was honestly a nightmare. If you hadn't peeled already on the first application, it was guaranteed that it would peel on the second application. To be honest, I haven't really heard too many good reviews on this one, at least in the English speaking community. And if you accidentally bought this one instead of this one, I seriously feel for you, because I do know that they look very, very similar. So once again, pink is clear, is good, blue is white, is bad. And lastly, the one we have all been waiting for, the 03 Cica Mint. So I was very, very excited when this was released earlier this year. The name and look suggested that it had a green tint to it, which would help cover up redness, and then it also had Cica, also known as Centella asiatica, to help soothe and calm the skin. So yes, I was all for it until I actually got my hands onto it and started using it. There were a few things that were a little bit questionable. First, it is super green. I actually filmed a first impressions on Instagram and was quite shocked to how green it was. Maybe on camera it doesn't seem that green, but compared to other products that I've used that are cream tinted, I felt like this one was definitely heavy on the green. Due to it being quite green, I did find it a little bit hard to blend out. It took quite a bit of time, especially when applying the recommended SPF amount of 2 fingers worth or a quarter teaspoon. Another thing is, I should have checked it before I bought it, but it contains fragrance. They are calling it a herbal scent, and unfortunately it is like halfway up the inky list. I don't know if you guys can tell, but this is where it is in the ingredients list, so it is pretty high up there. One of the biggest reasons to why I always recommended the Canmake was because it was alcohol and fragrance free for those sensitive skinned beauties out there. So I actually thought it was one of Canmake's biggest selling points for their sunscreen, but I guess not, because they did include it in their newest release. Not only that, but one of the biggest selling points of their new one is supposed to be the inclusion of Cica, or in Japan they call it Tsuboksa ha ekisu, the Centella asiatica that's supposed to be calming and soothing. That is actually second to last on the ingredients list. So fragrance is halfway up and the Centella extract is second to last. I'm pretty sure we all know that that's not really going to have any effect on your skin. If I am honest, it has been a bit of a letdown. I guess the bar that was set by the original was just so high that I didn't even think to kind of look into it or research it before I purchased it. That being said, honestly, I'm such a hypocrite, but I actually like the Cica Mint version better than the white version. It does help cover up some of that redness, and the texture is honestly somewhere in between these two. So for me, it is still a bit more moisturizing and softening on the skin. It can have a tendency to cling a little bit on the hairline or the brows, but it is nowhere as bad as the white, so it is still workable. Although again, it is not exactly ideal for reapplication. I would probably use this one exclusively for or underneath makeup, since it does have that redness correcting effect. And there it is, my full comparison review of the 3 Canmake Mermaid Skin Gel UV sunscreens. Basically, the conclusion is stick to the original, you can't go wrong. There is a reason to why it is talked about so much globally these days as well, and has continued to be a favorite of mine. It works for all skin types and skin tones, so don't waste your time on the others. Although once again, everybody's skin is different, and if you have used these ones and they work amazing for you, then more power to you. Like, honestly, I am so happy that it worked for you. I will leave you with a couple more Japanese SPF videos to check out, and if you could please do me a favor, could you leave me a comment of the next Japanese sunscreen that you want me to review that I haven't already? That would help me out a lot. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! Mwah!